You're like, stop, we finished it. They can do that too, right? And actually, at first, they were wait, but then they didn't make it. Yeah, they're really very yeah, I think I'm going to
I've never got to like see how they
I've been with her 20 years. Just saying. How are you? We were supposed to art Did you already take a look at all the Yeah, here. We're fine. I can't stand it. Did you see mine?
Not quite. I know. Well, I don't have. I've shown people several of them. Like I mean, you know,
But like, whatever you want to do.
I'm good.
You want to start in form of music or
Yeah. That I had because I used to know what a golfer I love. You know, the way that
Okay. So take off the ticker. Well, I'll keep it until I sit down. It's been more than 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, I see. I put the YouTube on our story. Or the link. Look at us, high tech over here. We're like techies. Of course. Ooh, okay. That was perfect.
And we're like on the beach already.
I mean, I was so
Girls' night or giving everyone a hug of a lifetime.
You don't know Esperanza.
I feel like next time the fact you're you know, they're like, oh yeah, like I don't want to start. I'm like, no. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, just one day we'd be like, okay, well, I'm moving next week.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. If you hear my voice, clap once. If you hear my voice, clap 2 times. If you hear my voice, clap 3 times. And I'm switching because I see people talking in the back. If you hear my voice, clap 4 times. Eso. My teacher mode comes in. Welcome everyone. If you can find a seat. We're going to be streaming on that TV so you can see it. You're going to get to see it all, hear it all. Get comfortable. Adelante, caminantes. Yes, please. We're going to get started. We can squeeze. There's a chair there too. Or you want me on the chair? I can sit on the chair. Oh, it's a bad angle. Okay. You know you're talking to some artists when they're aware of their bad angles. Well, I guess we're all gonna. You know what? I'm gonna bring a chair over here so you can stay. Give me 1 second. No, I need that back. Oh, that's a good angle. All right, why don't we take the mic and see how it works and pull it and play with it. All right. Buenas tardes, everyone. My name is Rivera. I'm the Executive Director of Galería de la Raza, and I want to welcome you to Studio 24. By a show of hands, who is here for the first time to Studio 24? Well, welcome back home. Bienvenidos a todos. This is your home. I've talked to a lot of folks that haven't been here, so I just want to give a brief outline of what we've been up to. You are in Studio 24. We are in the process of finishing construction of Studio 16, which will be on 16th and Folsom, and it'll house our Black Box Theater with a gallery space. It has been a long journey, but we're still in it. And as they say, aquí estamos y no nos vamos, y si nos sacan, nos regresamos. And we're still in that journey, but for now, Studio 24 is our workforce development annex. It'll continue to be that after we expand. And it also houses our administrative offices, and we get to have a lot of magic, be in community. During these times, we call it our political think tank, our action, oriented space where we come together to find solutions. I want to acknowledge our board chair, Francisco, who's here today representing the board. Thank you for being here, Francisco. I also want to acknowledge our Galería team, who is around. Yvette Diaz, our curatorial program coordinator, and hostess as well, and Emiliana Rivera, our communications coordinator, who's also making sure this is being streamed live. So wherever you are joining us, welcome. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I also want to acknowledge our volunteers, Bella in the front. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Your name, Frida, is with us. Thank you. And then Susana, I don't know where Susana went. She's always back. Susana, gracias. She's here with us too. And then Miguel in the corner there, who has been always an ally supporting us, giving support. Thank you so much, Miguel. Yesterday we got to move some furniture. We could have not done it without Miguel's help. Thank you so much. So we are here to celebrate and talk, be in conversation with the muses and the artistes. You are seeing in the front gallery From Fertile Lands, Birthing Women Made of Flowers. Today it closes, and we wanted to have an intimate conversation with the muses, the leaders, and the artists. Paola de la Calle is one of the we, for quite some time now, Regeneration officially was the name of the project that was founded by Dr. Armando Mesa Baines, which invested in artists and really thinking about how, the intergenerational approach to art making and organizing and operating a space. And it was her idea and her gift that she left us here in this organization. And in the last several years, we've done a lot of work to advocate to bring it back, to make sure that we are thinking about how we are working with artists and community, that continuing on our legacy. It's never really gone away, but we were very intentional about bringing this project. We have 2 cohorts that are actively up and running, a total of about 17 artists, and we're about to launch now a next cohort of Regen grants, and this time they're going to be looking at public art. So we're going to be thinking about creating art beyond the 4 walls and going onto the streets, as we've always done that. And this time, we need to be taking up space. And so we're really excited about the Regen program. And through the Regen program, which does grant making, training, project development, then they get to submit a proposal to Galería. Galería puts a panel that reviews it independently. We don't get to choose. There's no nepotism. They have to go through a process. The whole goal is that they get the skills that they need to then go pursue public dollars or any other philanthropic dollars available. And so through that process, Paola went through that process and was one of the Regen grantees. So you're seeing a body of work that was created, and we're going to talk about that today. So I just want to say thank you for being here. Let's get into it. I might cough because I'm getting over a little bug. But if I do, I've got teeth, don't worry, it's just a hiccup. I'm going to do the bio introductions because I think it's really important to understand the individuals beyond what we see here. And then we're going to have, I promised that it was going to be a fun, casual conversation. And I'm going to try. Empezamos. Paola de la Calle is a Colombian-American multidisciplinary artist whose work examines home, identity, borders, and nostalgia through the use of textiles, printmaking, and sculpture. In her practice, de la Calle combines photographs sourced from family albums and found images, which she prints on textiles as as poetic tests, paintings made with coffee instead of paint and found objects, to mine the aesthetics of nostalgia and examine the socio-political relationship between the United States and Colombia. She is a graduate of New York Foundation of the Arts Immigrant Artist Program in 2019, the lead artist of the Caravan for the Children campaign as part of her residency with Galería de la Raza in 2020. She was awarded fellowships at Calle in 2022 and the studios at Mass Mocha 2025. She has attended residencies at the Textile Art Center in Brooklyn, New York, Casa Lu in Mexico City. She has been featured in Hyperallergics, A View from the Easel, NPR, Refinery 29, the Boston Art Review, Latina Magazine, Glass Tire, and Vogue, among others. Now the muses. Ester Hernandez was born in California, San Joaquin Valley to Mexican Yaqui farm worker family. The UC Berkeley graduate is an internationally acclaimed San Francisco-based visual artist. She is best known for her depiction of Latina Native women through her pastels, prints, and installations. Her work reflects socio-political, ecological, and spiritual themes. Hernandez has had numerous national and international solo and group shows. Among them, her work has been included in the permanent collections of the National Museum of Art, the Smithsonian, Library of Congress, the Legion of Honor, San Francisco, the National Museum of Mexican Art, Chicago, Museo Casa Estudio Diego Rivera y Frida Kahlo, Mexico City, Museum of Contemporary Native Art, Institute of American Indian Arts, Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico, Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Her artistic and personal archives are housed at Stanford University. And last but never least, Olga Talamante is Executive Director Emerita of the Chicana Latina Foundation. She served as the Executive Director from 2003 to 2018, during which she oversaw the granting of thousands of dollars to Latina college students and founded the organization's pioneering Leadership Institute that has graduated over 700 Latina social justice leaders. Talamante's family migrated from Mexico to Gilroy, California in the early 1960s, where they worked in the farm fields for several years and formed the foundation of her activism. During the mid-70s, she became well known for her experience as a political prisoner in Argentina. As a result of the successful grassroots campaign known as the OTDC, Olga Talamante Defense Committee, she was released after spending 16 months in prison. Talamante served as co-chairs for the Horizons Foundation Board, the National Center for Lesbian Rights, and currently serves on the boards of El Concilio of San Mateo County, the Green Onion Institute, Chicana Latina Foundation, and is also co-chair of the Caravan for the Children, which continues to advocate for the reunification and healing of children separated at the border due to the zero tolerance policy. She holds a BA from the University of Santa Cruz and an honorary doctorate from the University of San Francisco. Whew. Well, before we go any further, do we have any people streaming? I want to ask people streaming to, just when they get a moment, tell us where you're streaming from. I want to know who's watching, and we'll come back to you all, but welcome. Bueno, as I mentioned, we're here to celebrate like two masterpieces, and then some. The artist, I want to start with the artist in terms of you know, what you created. When I see the images, it's so funny. I can see the gaze of Olga that we know. Mm-hmm. I can see Esther. I feel like I want to go grab Esther's hand at the bottom. Such beautiful work. And I'm, you know, in thinking about working with individuals, living subjects, I want to understand how you balance capturing their likeness and expressing something deeper and more abstract. Like, how do you get there? How did you get there in this process?
It's a good question. Oh,
Yeah.
And yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. So this is the first time in my work that I'm showing people's faces that are living. The first time that I painted a portrait was of my tío Jaime, who was a banana farmer in Colombia. And he's no longer with us. He died from the pesticide sprays, got cancer, passed away. And I think that at the root of that portrait was the like launch and desire to show his face and like to put a face to this issue. And then other times when I'm representing people, it's usually through objects or I'm obscuring their faces because of their migration status or like citizenship status. So it was something in this project where I knew I obviously wanted to depict their faces and to paint them and show them as they are. But I think the like more abstract feeling maybe comes from the coffee. I work with coffee. The portraits are painted with coffee because I think it gives this sort of like nostalgic feeling, but also because of its the exploitation of coffee as a resource. So I think maybe the coffee does an element of that. I think that also the process in which we got to actually painting is a really big part of it. I made sure that I was spending time with each of them in their homes, got to interview them, talk with them, sort of hear their stories. And I had no idea what the portraits were going to look like in the end. Like the process was informing the work. All I knew was that they were going to be big and that I was going to make ceramic elements to them, but I didn't know what those elements were going to be. So I would say that they really informed sort of like what the feeling became because their stories informed the objects, their stories informed the work. Yeah.
Awesome. So for reference, the body of work is titled Entre Nosotras, which was what we titled this conversation, Entre Nosotras, a conversation with us. And so conversation was a lot about what brought the pieces to life. But tell me, what was the seed that started this? When you submitted your proposal, there's a beautiful story that I want you to share with us. Why did you choose these two muses? And how does that relate to your personal story?
Yeah. It came from, I think, multiple places. I have a queer ancestor. His name is Benjamin de la Calle. He was a photographer in Colombia in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he is now known for his portrait photography of like queer life in Medellin in the early 1900s. And also for a lot of his like landscape photography. He was like documenting a lot of Medellin as it was changing. But he is a queer ancestor that was like exiled from my family because of his identity. And there's this whole, it's like, it lives somewhere between like myth and fact. But there's this story that my family tells about how our last name started as De La Calle and on my mom's side, and then we changed it to Calle to sort of like remove him from the picture. But as I was working on Olga and Ester's portraits, when I was at a residency in Mass Mocha this year, I got connected to a scholar who actually is doing work on Benjamin de la Calle. And it was really interesting talking to him because he was asking me questions about my family, and then I was asking him questions about this queer ancestor that I have. And he told the story that Benjamin actually added the tela to Calle to sort of like claim his own identity. And when I told my family that, they were like, "That's wrong." So yeah, who knows where sort of that lies. But I, in my practice for a really long time, have been sort of trying to figure out ways to like summon him and work with him and like have a conversation with him about his practice and his life. So when I proposed the project to Galería, it sort of came from that angle, and sort of like thinking about what a conversation would be like with him now, and sort of trying to do that with Ester and with Olga.
Beautiful. Thank you for finding that story. I think we need to, it reminds me of the Queer Ancestors Project, like how much we have to do that. So thank you for that. So as a Colombian American, where do you see your work fitting within the larger Latina arts field at this moment?
I mean, I think, I don't know. That's my real answer, is that I'm not sure where it fits. But I think that there's also like a lot of power in that, because we are such a diverse group of people with so many different histories, geographies, landscapes, religions, race. Like, we're really diverse, and I think being able to contribute is good enough. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to the muses, las musas. I want to just, before we go into the personal, I'll just start with, how do you, what was it like for you to see yourself through the artist's eyes when you saw the picture?
I've been involved in the art scene forever. I just want to make one quick comment. I was in the Galería, the first show that I was in Galería was in 1974. It was an all-women show. And at that point, there was a pushback that they didn't think anybody was going to show up. Everybody was there and their mom. So anyway,
How was it to see yourself?
I've had through the years people do portraits of me, photography or drawings, and so. But I just turned 80, so seeing myself at this point, it's kind of heavy but beautiful, and I'm really honored, especially when you're telling a big part of my story. And I'm really grateful that, I have been interviewed by a lot of people, and you really did your homework. She went to my archives at Stanford, and she really, really did a lot of research. And so when she came, she had like questions that were really important in terms of my life experience and background and history of my family. So I think it really just, I learned a lot from you, let's put it that way. And I found a real bond when you started talking about your family background, the pesticides that your family had to endure, like my family. So it was really beautiful. Not only, it was like different countries and different times that we came together. So it was beautiful. So I really thank you. And it sort of is visually sort of manifested in the work that you created. So thank you. On behalf not only of me, but my family.
How was it like to see yourself through the artist's eyes?
I just want to sit here and listen to Paola and instead.
That's my life.
So, just beautiful. Just sharing. I think for me it was it kind of stopped me in my tracks because it's similar to when you may be walking across a mirror and then all of a sudden you see yourself and you weren't expecting to stop and see yourself, and this made me stop and look at myself in the way that Paola was able to capture big parts of me, because you included family members, parents, and you included me as a younger woman, and then I guess I hadn't thought of it as the gaze, but I can kind of see how see in other photos that there is this gaze, and I don't know exactly what I was looking at, but you capture something about whatever it is that I'm actually looking at or looking for. And so then there was this, all of that is mixed in there. The process was also very meaningful to me because of your respect and the way that you presented your ideas, that you wanted to have feedback, that you also, I don't have my archives at Stanford, but she did do some reading, I'm so proud that they use R. And so, yeah, your own process, your own creative process, to see it now in full. And I didn't know exactly also where it was going. So now we're looking at all these objects and now, bringing objects that mean something to me, and also writings from magazines and so on that you also took, some writing that I've written, and then wow, and this is what artists do, and more power to them. What artists are able to do. I feel I'm so honored that I am a reflection of that artistic and really meaningful process. And it isn't just a pretty picture. I mean, I'm never getting just a pretty picture. But it isn't that. There is so much to it. There's so much power to it. There's so much history to it. And then there are the details. I was mentioning one detail to a friend here. I said, did you notice the garden closed at the bottom of the portrait? Right? Because your work where I grew up also as a farm worker, and that's something that Ester and I share in terms of our lives. That's where we come from. And so garlic representing that farm worker background. So beautifully done in each piece, beautifully done. Again, that's what artists do. So more power to you, and more power to all the artists here.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of the detail and the story that it's telling, you gave us the very, the sort of behind the scenes garlic. Tell me about what stories behind the church on your piece, the kind of like the tejido. Give me yes, that.
The middle fabric?
Yes, the fabric.
Yeah, so I work on Ester's portrait.
Well, I want to know what it is, and then I want to know how does it relate to Ester. What is it exactly? What is it?
Yeah,
What's the story?
so I use a lot of found fabric and objects in my work. That was a piece, and both of them have fabrics that I found in different places. So for Olga's portrait, there's also this like tejido, and it's a costal, which is what people in Colombia and other places too use to sort of like carry objects around. It's a fabric that I've had for a really long time in my studio, which happens a lot in my process where I just like have these things sitting and then it sort of comes back and appears in the work maybe like years later. So that's that fabric. And then similarly to the one on Ester's is I found that fabric, my tia Tata gave it to me, and my tia Tata is my aunt who taught me how to sew. And one of the big things when I was at Ester's house was your sewing machine, and sort of like the stories around your sewing machine, and you had all of your like the old bobbins and the threads and the needles. So that was sort of like how that fabric came to exist. It is less about the actual image of the fabric and more so of like the origin. Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's beautiful. So I want to take it back to the muses a little bit. We're going to just go back and forth in the conversation. Given the moment that we are now, You just mentioned that you just turned 80. I think the question that I have for both of you, yes, all dream, we both just had a birthday. I think I want to, both of you have a story as elders, as leaders, as making paths and continuing to push. And in a moment that we're in, I'm curious to hear more about, what really has changed and what feels the same right now. But when do you feel that you were like at the moment that your actions were actually making real change in community? Maybe you think about it through your art, maybe you think about it through the activism that you've done, and you can talk a little bit about that.
In some ways, things haven't changed, sadly. When I was growing up, I remember there were two things I was taught to be scared of. It was the Llorona and the Migla. Okay? So now I'm putting a fascism on the face of the Llorona. I'm giving her a break. Okay? So, fortunately, I would say, and I'm sure I'll get to this, having, growing up in a farmer family, my family was involved in cotton strikes in the 30s, and nobody knows about, they're writing about, and creating art about right now. I was blessed to be part of the farm workers movement when it came to it, just sort of organized and just redid the San Joaquin Valley farm worker community and agriculture in general. And then the words that I was being told by my family that sort of resonate with me to this day about nothing is going to change unless you take a stand. Okay, and for me, I was already involved in visual arts. So, but it was actually seeing the theater of the scene for the first time, coming through my little hometown, where I saw the art being used in terms of making change, in terms of seeing the beginning of it for the part of the social justice movement. That was a real turning point in my life. Just moving on, and then later on hearing from the Lord story telling me and a bunch of other Chicana artists that it was important for us to create more positive, or works of women, Chicana women, just doing a variety of things, not just that we were to be hidden or feared. So it was constantly meeting different people that sort of kept me on the path of, and in some ways keeping me grounded to where we are now. Because unfortunately, a lot of things are the same. We're still being erased. We're still being silenced. It's a lot more sophisticated now. And basically, we're all criminals. Everyone, all of us. But I've always felt, and even more so now, that the arts play a really strong role in telling our stories visually and keeping our spirits alive. Not only through visual art, but the room is filled with a lot of my friends who are singers, who are teachers, who work at doing a variety of things that keep our spirits going and all of that. And this sense of community that has sort of always sustained me and all of us, and it's going to sort of get us through all of this. And it always has and it always will. And the arts plays a super important role. It always has. So, I mean, I could go together.
Olga.
The question was.
The question was, so much has changed, and yet so much has stayed the same, but what were the actions, and maybe when you realized your voice or your actions were making a real impact? And yeah.
I think it's an accumulation of moments, and some have been more defining than others. But because of growing up in Gilroy, and the inequities were like just so blatant that I felt you could not help but say, this isn't right. And, in some ways, so either pushed along to say, well, then let's do something about it. Most of the times that was other people saying, let's do something about it. So that's when the tracking system was fully enforced in the educational system. And some of you may not know what that is, but that when students were tracked way from, first grade on to the tracking that they were gonna be part of through high school. And in high school is when you are divided up into the tracks of college going, sort of like vocational, and the losers. The X, Y, and Z tracking system was alive and well in Gilroy. And I had gone in every second. And guess who was at the bottom of the list? Who was at the top of the list? Because I had gone to school in Mexico up to the 5th grade. Actually, my academic skills were stronger than the other kids. There was a stronger foundation, especially in math, in that universal language. I'm going to this point. I was actually placed at one point in what was the Z, XYZ level. That's what the other students called the MR classes. What's the MR classes? Mentally retarded. So that's how the kids in that level were seen as. And it's not like I set out to say, oh, I gotta get out of this classroom. It was more like I was put in that class, and then I was moved on to the next level, then to the next level, and then to the next level, to the point that in high school, I was in the advanced placement classes. And our school was about half, not quite half, but about half Mexicanos, and the other half white. And there in the college going classes, there were like 4 of us with Mexican kids. And I had been in the MR class, to call it that. I started a whole kind of part of my activism at that point was to say, it's called MR not because of the students, because of the teachers. And it was a little bit of a cheap shot, I think, on my part, because I actually respect teachers a lot. But I was making a point. In any case, so there was a movement to actually put a stop to the tracking system. And Ramona Holguin, who was still a big supporter of the UFW, was one of the organizers of it, with the federal government. Anyway, so we went on to then get rid of the tracking system. And this sort of when you go down, okay, several of us rose up, we spoke up, and that's when it was like there's a little bit of a difference.
How old were you?
I was probably sophomore, 16, 17.
You see,
So
making a ruckus, as Yolanda would say, since you were in that.
Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Yeah. So, and it was, and really what that's why also when I work with the United Farm Workers is that our own personal condition is never going to change if we don't come together with other people in the similar conditions that want to change that. And that's part of the lessons.
Beautiful, beautiful. Those are intense answers, very, very needed. Thank you so much. I want to do a fun question. What's your favorite music artist? Estamos entre nosotros.
It's really hard because I think it's going to involve, maybe a few names, but there's one singer that is just in my heart always, and that's Whitney Houston. Girl, went through and everything. So anyway, but then
Want to dance with somebody?
Yeah.
You give good love. Which
Yes, so,
Yes.
but then I was supposed, to like, norteña music, Lola del Carmen.
I love to dance. I love to dance, so I'm really hot on Afro Latino music, which are nice. But, and also the Afro extends to the style.
Yes, it does.
But in general, I love all kinds of music. So I don't think I could draw one line without having music in the background. It's always been a part of my life and my family. That's why I did Louisiana. Yeah. Anyways, so.
Esther, you did Lydia Mendoza.
Lydia
Mendoza,
She did a beautiful portrait.
Yeah. She was important. She taught me a lot, but that's another story. But I love music in general. Seriously, I could not draw. So whatever, it depends on the mood that I'm in terms of drawing or whatever, or thinking, the thought process of art, that determines the type of music. So it goes all over the place.
¿Y tú, Paola?
Oh, I didn't want to answer. I feel very similarly in the studio. I dance a lot, and I play a lot of different music. I listen to a lot of boleros when I'm in the studio. I'm a sad girl. I love really sad music and really romantic music. So I listen to a lot of boleros. I really like Julio Jaramillo. Yeah, that I listen to him a lot. It would be a disservice to pick a favorite artist, but yeah, I think it just depends on my mood. Today I was listening to Amy Winehouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and that today, yeah.
I love it.
Kendrick Lamar, baby.
She clearly does it at your age. Yeah. Did we ever get any kind of comments of where people are tuning in from at all?
Did not.
Not. Okay, great. Well, stick with us. So I want to go back to the conversations, and we're like kind of, trying to keep it light and then build a good conversation. The other question, and then this question is for all three of you, and thinking about your, how you answer it from your practice. What are the hard lessons you've learned that you wish more people knew today and you would offer as advice in your journey? As an artist, I think it's really important to get your perspective on it, and I'll tell you why. We work with a lot of artists, a lot of emerging artists, and we definitely think that there's a need to create space for them to come together and share how to go through developing projects. So what are those hard lessons you've learned? And I put you on the spot because if you're an artist that I truly admire, that keeps her word, is on time, and delivers, like, touche. I was like, no, Yvette, where's Yvette in the room? She appreciates me.
Yeah.
So, I just think it's something like, how do you get through the hard process? Like, what has that been like for you? And if you can share that so that folks understand it's all part of it. And for you, and then how does that question apply to your project, to your artistic process, or your organizing, Olga? What are the hard lessons learned that you wish maybe somebody would have said to you? It's all good. Work through it this way. Move in this moment. So you can think about that.
I don't know. There's a lot, I think, of lessons as you're making art, like whether it's in the studio or if you're like applying to grants or residencies. I think there was a point in time where for my birthday, I would wish for big no's. It's like a big sort of like mantra for me, where I was like, I want big no's because it means that I'm doing hard things, and that I'm like putting myself in spaces that I want to reach, and like putting these goals out into the universe. Even if I'm getting rejected, and sort of like the more big no's I'm getting, the closer I am to a yes. So I apply that a lot to everything in my practice. But also like giving yourself the space and time to make really ugly work. I think it's a really big lesson. Like you have to make the ugly stuff because it teaches you something. That's a really big part of my practice too. And then just being dedicated to it. Like the work isn't just going to appear, like you have to work on it. So it also means sort of sacrificing other aspects of your life, but it's for something that you love, so, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Nice.
No? Okay.
I would say, especially talking to younger artists, that I've always been sort of, the university, the art schools, whatever, they never taught us anything about the business of art. And also, they never taught us anything about the hazardous qualities of art materials. Cough, cough. Yeah. What have you. So, but also, I learned a lot from, in particular, Lydia Mendoza, who was a groundbreaking singer. She taught me some really important things, especially at one point where I was in a relationship that was not like really nurturing to me, being an artist. In terms of like, really taught me important things, like being in a relationship with somebody who really supports and respects your artwork is really critical, okay, especially being a woman. But also this whole thing about sort of censorship, and really doing work that is meaningful to you, that means a lot to you. Because like when I did, like for example, Sundan, nobody was interested for about 20 years at all. I couldn't give it away. And now it's like in museums all over. But it's like being true to yourself, like she's saying, and sometimes you do work and it just kind of disappears, but somehow it builds up to create something else. The main thing that I'm really learning is it's really important for us to tell our story, our own story, our first voice. Because like right now I'm doing research and a new project on the cotton, picking cotton as a child, and going back in my mother's history of being a part of these strikes in the 30s, and nobody knows about, not even Chicanos, okay? So, and so realizing that, like what Sandra Siden tells me all the time, if you don't document it, it didn't happen. And just realizing that it's really important for us, whatever medium you do, whatever you do, that we tell our stories, that we document it as best we can, because otherwise, like she said, it didn't happen. And I can assure you, in the books that I'm reading, trying to learn about the strikes in the 30s, we were, like we are now, invisible and silenced. And so it's really a big responsibility. And for the younger generations to keep creating, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter what. We have to do that. That's a responsibility we owe it to ourselves and to the future. It's beautiful. It doesn't just have to be like heavy duty. It could just be celebrating the beauty of our culture. It doesn't have to be all like archigazos.
Yeah.
Do chingazos with fun.
Exactly.
It's more.
Reflecting on the question, I mean, I think that I would encourage, in this project for everyone, I work a lot with young people, so I really love to be in the company of young people, I learn a lot. But also for our OGs, you know, the veteranas, the veteranos that are here. I think that for me, I was clear about my political identity and clear about the things that were wrong, that I needed to be part of writing, make right. And I left kind of my own personal identity in my own personal path for myself to the side. Because and there was also a whole sense in the political movement that you should leave in some ways, leave yourself aside, because there was so much to do for community. And I think many of us did that, right? And we worked really hard and might have left to the side elements about ourselves. So and for me, I'm talking specifically about my queer identity. That I felt like I had to, compromise in some ways. And these are things that are lessons to myself that I also would share with other people is that, yeah, don't take so long. You know, I felt like I took too long on some aspects of my life to fully be who I am, to fully embody who I am in all the aspects of who I am. And so trying to comport to the expectations and what was, in the pressure. And then also because it didn't just affect me, it was like, well, what, ¿qué va a decir la gente? You know, what are people gonna say?
Yeah.
And so being very careful about that, not wanting to like affect my family and so on, and seeing, other queer members of my family, like my cousin Fernando, who used to be a drag queen performer, and none of us hardly ever knew that. And his nickname was La Perla. And so we think about La Perla. He passed away alone in Tijuana. And so it's like we don't have time to lose. We don't have time to lose. Just be ourselves, just be who we are, and let's support all of us around us who want to be who they are. Because that is being ourselves is also part of political work. And it's part of the resistance because we have to defend who we are. And I know Persia and Stephen are here. We just came from the rally that was held for Andre Romero, the young, hairstylist, gay man, who just under absolute no legal proposition you could ever think of, has been taken away, to El Salvador, from Venezuela. And we were all there saying, us being here is who we are, and defending people for who they are. That's part of the struggle right now. That's part of the fight for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking of queerness, if you were a dessert, what would you be? I know mine.
Can you please put chocolate with cheese?
Oh, I love dessert. So many. I'm thinking of creme brulee right now.
Oh. Okay. Olga.
And blueberry cheesecake.
So sticking to this, I'm ice cream all the time. I can give up anything but ice cream.
What flavor?
Depends on the day. Sometimes I want blueberry cheesecake. Sometimes I like ube. I even like the coffee, rum raisin. I mean, I'm naming all the flavors of Mitchell's. They should sound. But you'll always catch me late night trying to get a little scoop, a big scoop. Well, going back to queerness, as two queer elders and conversations we've had, I think that sometimes, as you were mentioning, our queerness is something that's put to the side, or, where it is also Lesbian Visibility Week. So shout out, happy Lesbian Visibility Week. I wanna, if you can talk about where does desire and land in your life and the body of your work and how you showed up as a queer elder. You talked a little bit about it, but what is that moment that keeps us going? I mean, all we need is love. We love, that's why we're here. We do the work that we do because of love. So how does that, manifest in the body of your work? Desire, queerness. They're shy now. Quiet over there. You guys. Is that Persia? You have ideas?
I've never been a purist.
Yes.
Right? So for me, I like the whole queer kind of blah, 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 blah. I love all of that. To me, that's really healthy, because back in the good old days, it was just you were one thing or another, and there was no space to really be yourself. I've been all over the place, okay, I'm gonna get into it.
She don't kiss and tell.
I've always felt that, that if you have the huevos, the chichis to be queer, that you really have something else going for you. You have this extra drive, because you've already broken all kinds of rules. You've stepped away from all kinds of rules and regulations and familia and what have you, that it gives you it can, if you harness it, it gives you the strength to sort of just move on, and create, and to create new worlds and new ways of being, and honoring those.
Is there a piece, can we talk about a piece that maybe is that in the body of your work? Is there
That
one
wasn't
piece?
really sort of, although it's not seen that way. Probably the origen de Guadalupe defendiendo los derechos de los Chicanos.
Oh, yeah.
I would say it's that, because it was initially created to honor my grandmother when she passed. My grandmother was rowdy, okay? Rowdy, she was full of life. But when she died, it was a typical memorial, Virgen de Guadalupe, the whole bit. And when we saw the card at her funeral, we thought, this is not my grandmother, and it stayed with me. But it was at a time also when the Chicana feminist movement was starting to recent Berkeley. And a lot of it was a time where we were coming out as being queer, and finding space and creating space for ourselves. So all of that came together when that age. Even though I wasn't able to articulate it at that time, it took a long time. It didn't have a name for a long time. But I really think all that came together. It's like a self-portrait.
I was talking about the political and also the personal identity. In 2003, I became the executive director of the Chicana Latina Foundation, which was a culmination of definitely my Chicana identity and working with young people. Esther was one of the first artists that came to me and said, you need anything, any way that I can support you. And that's when you feel like, I can do this work. Instead, it's behind me. It's helping other people also. And on that same year, I was asked to join the board of the National Center for Lesbian Rights. Okay, now, talk about coming out, right? That's a lot. That's a lot.
Go big or go home.
So I became the executive director of Chicana Latina Foundation the same year as I joined the board of the National Center for Lesbian Rights. Very public. Later on, I became the co-chair. And I wanted to say a little bit about in terms of my family, and again, how does life represent itself? Because even though I feel like I was a chicken shit many times, I still went on to try to live my life. And so after a few years, my family got accustomed to me bringing only girlfriends to the house. Right. So it was like, okay, but at the same time, it was like, oh, okay, there'll be still the jokes about the people and so and so. I one time with my brothers, I said, well, if someone ever says something about your sister being a dyke, you had better stand up and say you're proud of it. What? And it was like, that's the form of coming out. But it was when you just like, okay, that's enough of this, And so then when my brother started crying, and he said, he thought something bad had happened to me. Later on, I used that anecdote to say, no, mijo, something good happened to me, And so he actually rode in the Pride Parade with me. And I'm talking about also evolution of family in terms of accepting who you are, and sometimes it's unspoken, and a lot of times it's actually supportive no matter what, even if it is unspoken. So I give grace also to our families that have to navigate this with us without knowing exactly how to do it, because no one is supporting them. No one's telling them, oh, it's okay, they'll cut the things out with girls, No one's saying that, And so I don't know if I'm answering the question, but it's sort of like
You are.
the element of who we are fully with our families, in community, and in the public, you know. And so that's how those things sometimes happen.
We also want to say congratulations. I know you were, yesterday there was an unveiling for the Living
Lesbian
Lesbian
Legends.
Legends.
Yes.
Another legend, Lenore Chin. Extraordinaire that is always, I mean, if something happened in San Francisco, Lenore was there. So, congratulations. Exactly. So, congratulations to you too. That's beautiful. So
I want to say the Living Lesbian Legends is really actually great. It's a great mural at 18th near
Castro.
Castro. But I really like the living part best.
Yes, we talk a lot about that, right? The living, because I think that, well, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, homage is using art, and I think that's why your pieces are also so Entre Nosotras. The body of work is so important. Usually we see these as like once people have passed, and I think that giving you all of your flowers as you're here with us right now is so important. In this moment, it's so important to be able to have elders to talk to, and like what you said, Olga, like that's your friendship. You guys are carnalas, friendships, and yet you always show up for the younger folks too. I can say the same exactly. They're party girls. Party hard and work hard. They will party with the owls and roar like the eagles in the morning. And they are. Well, they don't show up. Yeah. So I want to say thank you for that. As a person that has always also felt the support that you guys give the space, the artists, everyone in this space. So thank you for being elders, for being daring, for creating a path, because we definitely are following and have been looking and still look for you guys. Like there's things that we don't do without checking in with each other. So thank you for being in that role. We are so blessed that you are live with us. But I haven't forgotten that you didn't answer the question. Desire. How does desire, I mean, I know you're an ally, I'm not gonna put that on you, but how does desire play into your work?
Desire. It feels very sexy, the word itself. And I don't know that my work is sexy.
Heller. Sexy.
I don't know, I think when I'm thinking about desire, there is like about, sort of authenticity that you were talking about earlier, like bringing your full self, and being your most honest self. And I think that is the version of myself that I am in the studio is a version of me that I really love and that I hold really sacred and that not a lot of people get access to. I also work out of my home, so that there's also an element there that feels really sacred. I'm a Cancer, so home is really important to me, and like building a safe space to sort of exist as my full self is important to my practice and in my like making process. So yeah.
That's great.
It's not just about being Buddha.
I'm like, ay, Dios mío, ¿qué es eso? It's the bubbly starting to get. Exactly. Well, I'm conscious of the time. I know we can go on, and I want to also open it up to maybe one or two questions of the audience. I really want to thank you all for allowing me to have my Oprah Winfrey moment. Because I really love, this is what I live for, just having conversations. Entre Nosotras is going to have to be like one of these things we continue. I do have one last question before we close, but I want to maybe open it up if anyone in the audience has a question, comment. Now, don't be shy. I've heard you cackling all afternoon. Come on. Questions, comments? No? Wow.
We love you.
Yes, thank you. so deeply. So we opened the show on International Women's Day. And I think I just want to close, I mean, there's the generation, 80s, 90s, 70s, you know. Tell me how being a woman has also, like, I mean, we talked about queerness, we talked about you as an artist, as the role you played in family, the role you played in public, but how has being a woman in your own personal, like, build your power?
I would say, for me, I think like being a woman is a superpower, and there's like nothing like being in a group of women. Like there's just something really sacred about a group of women together, talking, sharing space, sort of like sitting, staring into each other's eyes, saying like the craziest thing in the world, but like really seeing like the other person's like soul. I feel very inspired and like lucky to have been raised by really strong women. I am one of 3 sisters. I think that is like witchy and powerful in and of itself. 3 sisters. I have like theories about 3 sisters. But also all of the women in my life taught me something in relation to my practice too. So yeah, I feel very grateful to be able to exist and like live amongst women and to be one.
Awesome.
Yes. Well, I guess I would sort of agree with what she said. I grew up with some very strong women too. Starting with my grandmother. Yeah, very strong women who taught me to stand up and speak up for myself, which was very super important. I mean, even to this day, I've never really tripped on I don't know. When I'm creating work and all of that, I'm in this whole other world. So I never really think about myself one way or another. I just sort of go into this whole other realm and being an introvert. But certainly it's a part of who I am. And my inner strength and my experiences being a mother and grandmother and a tia and all of that. It's all part of who I am. But I don't know, I'm kind of invisible to myself. I don't know if that makes sense. My friend who works with psychiatrists would think
I think you said it best. You're a mother, you're
when you're creating work, you get into this whole other world. It's like you're in a whole other world. And so you have to draw again on these different energies, whether they're male, female, in between. You just have to go for it. So I don't trip on it. Yeah. I mean, I know what I am.
Sass.
Yeah.
Sass. Yeah.
No answer.
I relate to that in many ways, just that in the sense that I'm not sure that I can say, oh, I had my woman power at such and such a time. I don't have sisters. I have 3 brothers. So I had to constantly kind of make my stand, and they always reminded me that I was a girl. So that kind of plays in a different kind of a way. And the strongest figures growing up, family, teachers, have been women. This is the tias, eating after all the kids have eaten, and drinking coffee and smoking a cigarette and talking about what they have to take care of, what the decisions they have to make, and how to take care of the household and stuff and so on. They always started eating with the kids, but I always kind of stayed, at the table anyway, because I knew the women were gonna come next. And that was the most fun conversations, and that's when you really find out what was really happening. Like our friend Maria X, bringing her into the room, because everything happens at the kitchen table, right? And at Maria's kitchen table, we created so many things. So it's sort of like I think that's how the power of women comes together. So
Yeah, I just want to say this, I think we have our inner power, but it's like the part of how the outside world brings it. that's challenging.
Yeah. So
I
my,
see women in college, especially.
absolutely, especially during these times. I'd say that was my last one, but I have one more question, then I'm gonna get to food. I really do, we're gonna get to food. Given the moment that we're in, what is your message for how do we get through? I don't even know if I should say 4 years or however, this thing. How do we get through it as an artist, as a activist, as a woman, as a leader in this community? What is your message? Give us a message of maybe hope, perseverance. I would say esperanza.
Oh, I was going to
They
say,
say the youth gotta leave.
well, I was gonna say, there have been people who have walked this road before us, and then there are really important lessons. I mean, like, I feel really grateful to be here and to be able to share space with Olga and Ester and learn from their lives and experiences. So, yeah, that's what I would do. That's how I've been feeling, right? Like, there have been people who have walked this road before, and there's knowledge there. And it's important to tap into it, to be in community with each other. You're not gonna do it alone. Yeah, a movement is many people and many words.
She's better at that.
Yeah.
She brings it all brings it all together. I would just say this is really an important time for all of us to get involved, whatever we have to contribute, because it's like a bit overwhelming. And I've talked to some friends of mine and they're like, I don't know what to do, I'm just gonna get it up. But there's so many different things, and I can look out in the audience and I can see so many friends that are doing so many different things and working with different communities. Whether it's like my friend Rose with domestic workers, or Celia working with people in the Tenderloin, or somebody singing and working in the courts. I mean, there's just so much here that we're doing that we just have to find our focus, otherwise it's totally overwhelming. And for me, like I've always tried to do work, social justice with my artwork, not always, but most of the time. But I still find myself fun time protesting in front of the Tesla. Okay, that was so much fun. And I've been to a few rallies. I mean, do what you can. That's all I can say. We can't do it all. Just find your little niche, whatever it is, to sort of help get us through this time. And I always have to say, at the beginning of the time, that it's the arts. Listening to music, singing, dancing, coming together, hearing poetry, whatever, singing. These are all the things that makes us human and that have carried us through hard times since the beginning of time. And they will continue to. I don't know talk about AI, if we're going to be expressing ourselves to the end.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I think we have an orders party on. I want to say in terms of the arts, that it's so important to definitely support the artists, visual artists, our singers, our writers, our poets, our photographers. And I know we're doing our part, my partner Paola and I, aside from all the places that Ester's art is collected in, our households, our collectors of Ester's art. And just to say, they support each other, however we can, and every single act, whatever that is, on each of you, it accumulates to a collective action, and it accumulates to having impact. And I mentioned in my bio that I was a political prisoner for 16 months. Many of you have heard me say this, but my life was saved because someone picked up the pen and signed a petition, wrote a letter, bought a raffle ticket for $2 at that time, that's how much they were selling for. And it became such a force that they could not ignore it. My mother was at the forefront. She had a 5th grade education. She was at the forefront of speaking on behalf of her daughter. She had a vested interest, of course, but she convinced many, many people to say say, this isn't right, and we have to fight for her. And her quote is on the wall next to my portrait. It said, "Entre más se lucha, menos se sufre." And that's how she came to be with that. She said, the more I struggle, the less I'm gonna suffer about, what my daughter is going through. So the more that we struggle, the less that we will suffer for all the attacks that are coming at us from all directions to all our communities. So we struggle forward, we struggle with joy, we struggle together.
I would add to that too, that thank you so much, and that it reminds me of something a colleague said to me who was raised in the Black Panther movement, that to organize people, you gotta feed the people. So the way that I felt that translated was, we've gotta take care of one another. We gotta be making sure people are eating, we gotta make sure people are have a roof over their head, we have to make sure they're having quality of life. And right now, these are the moments that they're attacking us. So come together, remember that. I really, when they say that, is to your point, Paola, is that you are our examples. You have all fought to that, and we have a North Star that we have to remember we have. And so how do we continue to create spaces to have those conversations, to meet with each other like we are meeting today? So I just want to thank you, everyone, for being here and giving your Saturday to be in conversation. I want to thank you all for your sacrifices throughout your long life legacy, and for continuing to show up with joy, because you also always show up with joy. We fight hard, we play hard. Paola, thank you for your, visual beauty that you bring to the world, and that you consistently show up with such, the standards are so high by you, girl. We always look at artists and we're like, yes. So thank you for that. Thank you for being committed as a visual artist, as an artist of this generation. It's just been an honor to work with every single one of you. I want to thank again the Galería staff, Yvette, Emiliana, the volunteers that are in the front, Bella, Frida, Susana, que la agradecí otra vez. Thank you. We have food. There's a little plate. No tengan hambre. There's vegetarian options, and then there's meat options. We thought it was going to be more people here, but there's enough for everyone. So you just show up and get a plate. Bingo will have music. There's mimosas. The coffee and tea is complimentary. The mimosas are a wide donation. I also want to plug that the artworks are for sale. And we're committed to getting these artworks sold. I have a vision that Olga should be in her collection, so let's get it to her home one day, and Ester as well. Can maybe end up in Stanford, girl. Do something. But in any case, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Stay connected. Come and visit us. Stay tuned with what's happening. Our next exhibit will open end of May, soft opening, and then the big opening is in June. We continue to do our work with our region cohorts, and stay tuned if you know artists that do public art, that are interested in understanding public art, really understanding the correlation between public art and safety, beautification, by us, for us. We will be launching the region cohort beautification project in the next several weeks. And we hope that we could start also, again, sending our message beyond our walls out into the streets and seeing ourselves reflected out there. So I think that's it, right? Let's wrap it up. All right, we did it.